Bonjour les amis, aujourd'hui je vais faire un tutoriel sur I wonder how many of you clicked off thinking this was going to be a French tutorial. Hey, what's up guys, I'm back, and today we'll be finally making a video on how to make Phonk like Soudiere. I'm gonna skip the whole introduction part of Soudiere because I'm sure everybody knows who he is. So let's just get straight into it. Alright, for sampling, there are three main places that I like to look for. The first one is the radio. So there are different channels like the 80s channel, 90s, there's a lot of jazz, like all of that, and those are some really good places to look since it's always something new. And yeah, that's one I really recommend. The second option is YouTube channels. This is the one I use like the most often. So I just subscribe to a bunch of channels that like to upload just old 80s music or just old jazz, just samples and vinyl recordings and everything. One I really recommend is Son Image, and I know Soudiere have used this one a lot. For the third option, it's a website called Who Sampled, and I'm sure you guys have stumbled upon it. So let's say I found a song that I'm like 100% sure that it's a sample, and I really want it without having to chop it up from the original song, which may have some effects and everything. So you just want the raw song. So you're just gonna look up the song on Google, and then at the end you're gonna add who sampled. So it should be the first thing that comes up, and if it doesn't come up, it's probably just a really underrated song. But yeah, so you just click on it and it shows you side by side what it sounds like. So here's this one. And then it shows you where the sample appears in the original sample. So yeah, that's really good. I haven't really used this one too often because I don't like to sample things that have already been sampled. Sometimes it just happens that a sample I used have been used a couple times anyways, but yeah, so that's pretty much for sampling. Now the sample that we're going to be using today is Kenny Poor Walking With You. So this is what it sounds like on its own without any effects or anything. So here it is. So basically, you're just gonna listen through the sample and try to find a loop point. So that could be 4 bars or 8 bars or even 16 bars. You can chop it up after. So let's just listen through and wait for parts that we can chop up. So yeah, that sounds good enough. And once you've selected it, hold on to this button right here and drag it onto the timeline. So after you've got this sample chopped up, you can go on each individual part and right click and click project tempo. Another really important factor that I haven't seen most people do is this right here. So you see this little crossfade at the end, or just a fade out. Basically what that is so that it reduces the clicking. So basically you're gonna go to mode, click, and click smooth bleeding. And what that does is just fades out the sample at the end. So that's a smooth transition between each loop.
There's no light, that's when I start creeping like a hitman. Scope my man, then I toss the dynamite.
Now for drum selection, I recommend going through Phonk drum kits. So I have my drum kit, there's the all the Jason Rich drum kits. You're gonna find a kick that punches really hard. You don't want that too low of a low end, but you still want it to punch through the mix. So this is the one I have. And for the snare, you're gonna probably want to stack the snares, which is a technique used very often. So basically you have more than one snare, and then you just add one on top of each other, and they play at the same time, and then you can adjust the leveling after. So this is the first, I think this is the main snare, and then there's this snare, and finally this one. So yeah, the third one is the main snare, and this is what they sound like together. And by itself, it sounds kind of ugly, but I can guarantee that it's gonna fit with the sample that you choose. So if you base everything off the sample, everything should just fit together perfectly. So one problem that I actually do a lot is that I put the sample, then I just go straight to the pattern and start making a random drum beat, then adding it, then realizing I've spent 30 minutes on a pattern and it doesn't even fit with the song. So it can be really annoying to keep playing the sample over and over at the same time making the drums, but trust me, it's going to be worth it, and you're going to figure out if this sample even works in the first place. Now for hi-hats, I have this hi-hat right here. It's just a generic hi-hat, and the effects that I've added to it are stereo enhance, which is something that I've just come to learn, and it's really good. So pretty much what it does is that it separates the sound so that it plays one to the left and one to the right really quickly, so it sounds kind of like it pans a bit. Alright, for the hi-hat pattern, this is where I have it at. It's just a couple stutters here and there, and I think it sounds really good with the beat. So you can listen to the sample at the same time of making your hi-hat pattern to fill in the spots that sound a little empty. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Also for the velocity, you're gonna smooth it in when you make a long pattern like this, so it doesn't like blast your ears like a machine gun. Alright, so for percussion, you're gonna add some very old school Memphis, I guess, such as the cowbell, and more just tiny sounds like rides and triangles and rims. Now here's probably the most tricky part for new producers, and it's to find the key of the sample. So I'm gonna link a program in the description that finds it automatically, and the software is called Key Finder. Open the sample, then I open Key Finder, and you just drag it in, and then you need to click Run Batch Analysis. So it shows us that it's mostly a D flat major. So you're gonna look up online, if you don't know music theory like me, you can look up online what a D flat major is. So you go here and then you look up a piano like this, and then you add a sampler, and then go to the piano roll, and you're gonna start adding the notes. So what that does is that it makes sure that every sound that you add, like a bass, or if you want to add synths or plucks or anything of that sort, that it's on key with the sample. Because you can tell when something sounds off and you're not quite sure what it is, and 9 times out of 10 it's the key. So you can also do it by ear, but that takes a lot of experience. So start off with the snare, and then you can slowly add different effects such as kick, hi-hats, open hats, percussion, and then you'll end up at the a cappella by the end. The bass is a fairly simple thing. It's a plugin called Sakura, which is default to FL Studio, and it's a plugin called Deep House FG. That's in the bass section. So Deep House FG, and then if you go into it, you can listen that it's kind of weird and not loud, but then what I did is that I recorded it, just one note on C, and then I made an 808 with it. So I'm actually going to put this 808 in the description for you guys, and you can go and download it, and then you can do these things to it. So the first thing you could do when you put an 808 into your project should be to set it up. So first thing, you go to, well, first of all, you make sure it's trimmed, so just like that, and then also make sure that it's on auto, and that you click none here so that it doesn't do weird things. And then you're going to go to the second tab over here, and this is what it should look like for you. So all you need to do is turn this down, turn this up, turn this down, turn this down, turn this down. And what that does is that it lets go of the 808 it stops the 808 when you let go of the note. So here's an example. So it doesn't keep going. And now, so that your 808 doesn't overlap on top of each other, you're going to go to the third section and click cut self. And that's all you need to do for setup.
Everything is business, a shit personal. Everything is business, a shit personal.
Alright, and now for the most crucial part of pretty much the entire process, and that's mixing. So the kick shouldn't be too loud. So in Soudiere's songs, you're not gonna hear it completely blast through the mix, but you know that it's there and it really cuts through the mix, but you don't want it to like blare through. So this is where I have it at. So it's pretty much barely clipping, but not too much, because you really want to hear that it's there, like it's gonna cut through the mix, but you don't want to overpower everything. And for the mixing for the bass that you're gonna have in the description, all you're gonna need is add a compressor to make it louder, and a threshold to make sure that doesn't clip too bad. And then just a simple paramedic EQ where you remove a tiny bit of bass right here. Now the effects that I've added for the sample are fairly simple. It's just removing the low end, which is the most important thing, and I hear it far too often. So what that does is it stops clashing with the 808. And for reverb, you're gonna add is basically just the default setting, and you're gonna turn up the wetness, so all the way like around here. So that adds like a very good ambience to the melody. And then leveling is fairly simple. If you're not sure if a sound is too loud or too low, you can try out different headphones and different speakers. I know that has helped me in the past. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Another thing is the acapella. So my acapella is A side came with the posse, and I didn't need to do any EQing or try to find an acapella, because this is what it was like before the drop of the song. This is the isolated part. Came with the posse, chain looking Aki, ice with the hockey. And I've added some effects to it. So the sound goodizer, I know it's kind of a meme, but I know it really helps to boost some frequencies. And the reverb, just a tiny bit of reverb right here, and the guitar gadget. So I'm pretty sure this is a free plugin, but I added the micro cassette plugin, and here's the difference with it and without it.
Came with the posse, chain looking Aki, ice with the hockey. Came with the posse, chain looking Aki, ice with the hockey.
So something that Soudiere has a lot is very I wouldn't say low quality, but more like Memphis style vocals that are very low in like cleanness. So it's a very dirty acapella.